What is up, YouTube? I'm Devon DaVinci, leader of the Renaissance crew, and you're watching DaVinci Reacts. Today I have a very interesting video for you guys. This is a video that ties in with the recent video I did about oversimplified Civil War videos. This is a video by AlternateHistoryHub, and this is a channel that I'm subscribed to. I've been subscribed to them for a very long time, and this is one of the videos that they have covered. This is an alternate world of a Southern victory. So pretty much it discussed what would have happened if the South had won the Civil War. It's going to try to, what's the word I'm looking for? Not predict. Whatever. It's going to try to assume what would happen if the South had actually come out on top. This is an interesting video, and I know they have a lot of scenarios, and I don't believe I've seen this one. I've seen the one where they have Germany winning World War II and stuff like that. So if you want to see all the videos they have on their channel, I will have a link for their channel right over here. The last 30 seconds, it'll pop up in the video. Click it and go watch the other scenarios they have out there. And if you want to show some support for the original content creator, click the original link in the description box of this video. It'll take you to the video I'm reacting to right now. And if you want to show them support, watch the video. I always recommend, if you don't want to watch the video twice, open the video in a new window or a new tab, have it playing in the background while it's on mute. While you're watching this, by the time this video is over, that video will be over and you'll have already given them a view. So, just a heads up. Anyway, let's check this out and see what it has to offer.
Let's talk about the South. Oh God, YouTube, no, please. The American Civil War was the result of decades of tension between the North and South. We all know how it ended. The United States won, the Confederacy was dissolved, and slavery ended. In that whirlwind of conflict, it's often cast aside that the CSA had full intentions of being a legitimate nation alongside the USA. But as they lost the war, that dream lasted only a brief moment before being snuffed out. The idea of the South winning that war, becoming its own country, and competing against its northern neighbor has fascinated alternate history writers for decades. I mean, I even covered it. It sparks the imagination of how such a nation would have operated after decades, maybe even spanning into the 20th century. What would the Confederate States of America be like? And nobody imagined such a world better than the author Harry Turtledove, who wrote a series of novels detailing an alternate reality where the United States lost the Civil War and the Confederates became their own independent nation. This is the Southern Victory series. Over the course of several novels, we see a world where the South lives on. What I want to do is talk about this world that Turtledove crafted, including the alternate history he made, in an easy-to-digest format. Maybe even a few jokes, who knows. I'm not going to talk about characters, but if you're thinking of reading these books for the scenario alone, then I would recommend clicking off, because there are going to be spoilers. So, since this is alternate history, how does Turtledove's scenario split from our own actual history? What event leads to the South winning the war? One guy doesn't screw it up. Yes, that's it.
I was about to say, I would assume the victory at Gettysburg, but one guy is going to not screw up what they screwed up. I'm trying to think back. Who was the person that really screwed up big time on in the Civil War? Was it when Stonewall Jackson got killed by friendly fire? Was that the screw up? If Stonewall Jackson had been alive, he probably could have been there during the Gettysburg assault.
One lonely messenger actually does his job. How does this happen? In the fall of 1862, a message from General Lee himself is successfully relayed, announcing a full-scale invasion of the North, Special Order 191. In our timeline, that message never made it. It was lost and intercepted by the Union, who then used said information of an invasion to catch the Confederates off guard.
Yeah, that was the first time they tried to invade the North.
Things are different. The Confederates, while undermanned, had tactically superior generals, and the Union, well, oh boy. Using the Union's incompetence to their advantage, Lee decides to send his troops straight across the Mason-Dixon line and into the city of Philadelphia. The Southern invasion catches Union General George McClellan off guard. The Union forces are viciously defeated, leaving the city open for Confederate capture. The fall of Philadelphia is a turning point in the conflict and in American history. It's the moment that the Northern cause seems hopeless to not only the United States, but the world as well. One constant fear during the war was that the Confederates would use their cotton exports to leverage support from Europe. And in Turtledove's world, this becomes a reality. Britain and France recognize the way the war is going and recognize the cause of the Confederates. Even if they're against the practice of slavery, they sure do like that cotton, and it's always good to side with the victor. So Europe forces the United States to enter negotiations with the South. It's over. The Civil War, or War of Succession as it comes to be called, has come to an end. A peace treaty is signed, and the Confederate States of America is officially recognized. Now, two rival nations are forced to share the same continent. Lincoln's legacy is in shambles.
I'm gonna let it continue, but I was about to say, I wonder what that would do with the Fugitive Slave Act, because I think the reason why they were able to get it through was because it was all one country. It was just one side wanted slavery, the other side didn't. So if the slaves were to have escaped into the North, because of the Fugitive Slave Law, they were able to go and actually like bring them back. But would they be able to do that if the Confederate States and the United States were separated? So if somebody crossed over, wouldn't that be like crossing over into Canada? Like, would they be able to go in and get them? I don't know. They probably wouldn't.
Are forced to share the same continent. Lincoln's legacy is in shambles. His rise to power is seen as what divided the country, and he's soon voted out of office. Now in our timeline, Lincoln's entire legacy was always on the line. The actions he took were often seen as one of a dictator, and if the war was lost, it would have backfired immensely. So, the CSA now rules itself. Now what? Well, the novels actually skip over a few decades. This is a time for rebuilding and expansion. While the two countries have lived in peace, there is always an undercurrent of tension. The CSA is able to achieve many dreams they actually had in our own history. The great thing Turtledove is able to do is to make these play out, one of which is the purchase of Cuba from Spain. Now in our timeline, Southern Power really wanted Cuba because of the sugar fields and many foreigners that could be exploited. Cuba is purchased and becomes another state in the Confederacy. Not only that, but both North and South have been expanding west in the last 20 years. Indian Territory becomes the Confederate state of Sequoia, and general mucking about occurs in the west. Fun stuff. Not too far west though, because the US was so poor, they actually couldn't purchase Alaska from the Russians, so Russia just keeps it. And nobody ever went to Hawaii, so the Sandwich Islands are now a British colony. This is the unique turn that a Southern victory has on the legacy of what we think of as America. North America is a much more hostile place. It's a muddled, complicated mess. The relationship between North and South.
Imagine how different the Cold War would have been had Russia kept Alaska. Like, the whole point of the Cuban Missile Crisis was because of the tension with the nukes being right on America's front door. So imagine if Russia was able to bring nukes and put them into Alaska, and America couldn't really do anything about it because it's Russia. Like, it's our country. We could put our nukes wherever the hell we want to. And it would have probably led to a war, because the reason why we took nukes out of Cuba was because we had nukes in Turkey we had nukes in Turkey and Russia had nukes in Cuba, and they negotiated and got both the nukes out of those areas. But that was because we were using like a neutral guy in the middle. Well, not neutral, but someone that was kind of our ally in the middle to keep our nukes for us without actually having our nukes like in our own area pointed at them. So I'm lost what the hell I was about to say. I mean, I know what I'm trying to say, but it just isn't coming around the way I want to, so screw it. Either way, the war would have been different. The Cold War would have probably ended with the actual war, and anybody that knows what I'm trying to say, go ahead and piece that together in the comment section.
It's a muddled, complicated mess. The relationship between North and South devolves into constantly suspecting each other. Instead of American policy being towards overseas colonies expanding its tiny little empire, both nations are too poor to do much, and focus on whatever the other is doing. This has to do with really one thing: slavery, he says as the entire comment section erupts. But Turtledove's novel, rightly so, focuses on the subject of slavery in the Confederacy. You can't avoid it, so I'm not. The issue of slavery comes up many times in the CSA. Even in the 1880s, it's still the bedrock of the South, and by this time, it's become a detriment to the image of the Confederates. Times are changing. With the Industrial Revolution in full swing, the appeal of human labor is less and less. Why keep such a system when another is much more efficient? They've maintained relationships with Britain and France since the war, but both nations constantly remind them of how backwards the Southern economic model is. It's becoming an unneeded pain. So, the CSA itself has a question to ask: what to do about slavery? This is caused by, all places, Mexico. With everything that changed, Mexico is still the same, in debt, and really just a mess. The failing Mexican empire, in a desperate attempt to get money, sells its two northern states, Chihuahua and Sonora, to the Confederacy. Long story short, the Union doesn't like this southern expansion. The new president is hardline anti-Confederate and threatens war against the Confederates to stop what they're doing, which wasn't really a smart move since the Confederates legally weren't doing anything wrong. So, what does this have to do with slavery? The Confederates knew that in a war against the Union, they might risk losing everything, and so they needed allies. The British and French would only support the CSA if they stripped away their slavery image. And so the CSA does just that. They begin to slowly get rid of the Institute of Slavery. But before talking about those ramifications, we're off to war. The Second Mexican War, which actually doesn't involve Mexico at all, so good job naming that. Now, the specifics of the war aren't really
To be fair, we Americans have a horrible job at naming certain wars. I mean, remember the French and Indian War? We're not very great. For those that don't know what the French and Indian War was, I'm pretty sure that was the 7 Years' War. We called it the French and Indian War. Whatever. Spanish-American War, I believe, was the war against Mexico. Should just call it the Mexican War, but whatever.
Involve Mexico at all, so good job naming that. Now, the specifics of the war aren't really important. War, in most regards, it's a repeat of the First War. The U.S. is incompetent, the South holds its own, the Mormons do some rebelling, and the British do some invading. The United States tries to invade the South through Louisville, though this goes horrendously. The fighting is so brutal, it's the first use of trench warfare in modern history, and the U.S. is forced to concede defeat. This defeat shapes the United States' relationship with the rest of the world. The Confederates have shown to be a favorite child of the British and French. This alliance causes deep resentment from the Americans. This is in a time of immigration as well, particularly German. The Second Mexican War is important because the US forever becomes enemies with the British and French, who choose time and time again to side with the Confederates. So the US goes looking for more allies. The heavily Germanic United States finds a natural friend in another underdog country, the German Empire. As the 20th century comes around the corner, secret alliances are drawn, not just as tensions rise in Europe, but on the North American continent as well. Now, this is just one book. Turtledove's Southern Victory series is quite long, far too much content to cover for, say, a 10-minute YouTube video or 20-minute video, so that's why I'm splitting this into a few parts. So, how will I...
Hey, Cody!
Hey, Emperor Tiger Star. Look, this series is far too long to cover by just myself. So, how about let's do this? Split it up into 4 parts. I cover part 1 and 3, you cover part 2 and 4.
I mean, that's quite a bit of work, and also, I only came over to ask you to stop...
Well, it's settled then. Fantastic. Part 2 will be on Emperor Tiger Star channel, and then part 3 with mine in July, and so forth.
Do I have a say in the...
This is Cody of Alternate History Hub. This video was brought to you by Squarespace. I'm sure you've heard that name before, but for good reason. Squarespace is a great service that simply lets you create your own website. Squarespace gives you the tools to easily build your own online presence.
I'm gonna pause it. I want to see if he has a link, but because of how old this video is, Yeah, this is a couple years ago. I'm not sure if this is still a thing, but I'll leave a link just to be on the safe side. But I don't know if this savings still exists. So anybody looking to create a website, I will have a link for his Squarespace promo in the description box down below. But yeah, it's interesting because, like I said, the Fugitive Slave Act, I don't know exactly how that will work out. Would the UK actually continue to join sides with the Confederates? I mean, yes, the whole reason why they were thinking about jumping in was because of the cotton. Like, the cotton wasn't coming, or because of the Anaconda Plan, the South wasn't getting any cotton past like the North's blockade and couldn't get out to the UK. That's the reason why UK and France were thinking about interfering, but that was the only thing that really kept them wanting to do that. So in a world that goes past that, and I'm guessing the Industrial Revolution continues and America continues to industrialize, why would the UK and France still be that like connected to the South? I don't really know, because at that point it's like we're getting to the point where we're almost like making new fabrics anyway, like polyester and shit, so they can just create synthetic fabrics. But I mean, yeah, they, like I said, they still have a big cotton influence, so I don't really, it just seems weird to me. Like, I don't know why they won't just put a type of trade agreement together after the Anaconda Plan was dissolved, and just import cotton, but still to kind of like keep a decent relationship with both countries. Like, why would you want to alienate an industrial America to ally with the agricultural America? It just doesn't seem like a great idea. Now, I'm not saying turn your back on the South or anything like that. I'm saying, why develop a bad relationship with one side just to try to ally with another, when you could just like be cool with both of them and get the benefits of both. But yeah, if it does go down the direction that Harry Turtle Dove. Every time I think of Turtle Dove, I think of Home Alone 2. But if Mr. Turtle Dove were to have predicted the right scenario and everything worked out the way that he assumed, then yeah, wouldn't that mean that America, the north side of America, would join World War II on the Axis side if they're like really allied with Germany? And since it was a underdog thing that they were tied with, then possibly even Japan as well. And North America, I'm guessing if Germany's doing the whole expansion thing like they did in World War II, North America's probably going to want to get in on that and probably jump into the Confederate Americas to try to take over their land and become one union just like they did in the past. I mean, that's what held a lot of those countries that were in the Axis together. They wanted to reform their old glory. Germany and Italy, like, they wanted to go back to what their countries used to be. So I would imagine America would probably do the same. But yeah, I was about to say, there are 4 parts to this video. I will be tackling all of them, so the next time I upload some videos, there will be a part 2 for this, which is on the other YouTuber's channel, which I have done a reaction to, but I will continue to check it out. I haven't done a reaction to the video that he's covering. I'm saying I've done a reaction to that YouTuber. But I will be checking out the other videos that are in this series, so be on the lookout for those. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out AlternateHistoryHub. Like I said, it's going to pop up in the video over here. If you haven't already seen the original, now's your time to do it. Like I said, play it in the background, whatever you got to do, just show them some support. And if you want to show my channel some support, click that like button. Hit the thumbs up. That's all you got to do. I don't have a Patreon or anything like that, so the best way you can show support is by clicking the thumbs up button. And with that being said, I'm Devon DaVinci. You've just been a little more enlightened. I look forward to seeing you guys in a future video. Until then, I'm going to give you the deuces, and I'm signing out. Deuces.